Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is TJ Ware. I am a public adjuster. I'm also the founder and CEO of NTS, which I'll talk about just a little bit in a moment. I'm also a board advisor for the APA, and I help run the political action committee connected to the APA called American Policyholders for Fair Insurance Claims. So I do a lot of work with attorneys general across the country and, work with you guys to try to make sure that insurance companies aren't allowed to do that which the rest of us would go to prison for. I want to talk about a couple of things. This is going to be kind of fast and furious, so hopefully fast and loud so that you don't fall asleep after lunch. I'm going to talk about burnout. Burnout's something that I know quite a bit about because my personality naturally lends itself to burning out. I go fast and hard, and I have 10 kids. Some of you guys know that, but I have 7 sons and 3 daughters, and they all need a lot of different things, and that pushes me hard, and sometimes I push myself a lot harder than I should have. A little bit more about myself real quick. NTS, who in here is not familiar with NTS? NTS, it's Name That Shingle. Some of you guys have heard of ITEL. ITEL identifies roofing products and other products. NTS is really the only major competitor to ITEL. The most accurate and informative source for roofing product information. These are the reports that we do. We do shingles and tile currently. We're getting into more product lines as we move on. We support our reports with manufacturer's documentation because, as most of you know, manufacturer's instructions are a huge component when it comes to code compliance. And then we want to make sure that we're spreading knowledge and information. My partners at NTS are John Cenac and Brian Larita. Brian is an amazing integrator that nobody knows because he's in the rear with the gear, as we would have said in the Marine Corps. But he's been incredible, and the company's been a huge blessing. We have a Facebook group that's got over 18,000 contractors in it. If you guys would like to join it, you can just scan that QR code, and it'll take you to the Facebook group. It's a great place for adjusters, public adjusters, roofing contractors to get in there and learn and network. And then rave reviews. People have been very happy with our product and our service, which wasn't that hard to accomplish. I mean, it took a lot of work, but when our competitor is a monopoly and they don't provide accurate or informative reports and nobody really had any other option to hire someone else, all we had to do was come in and be accurate and provide robust documentation and build a system where we can accurately identify everything. And once we did that, which we used the Facebook group for about 8 months to beta test our process, once we did that, we were able to come up with a product that added a lot of value to people. And you can create a free account on ntsid.com. We also have a smartphone app for Apple and Android. I also run Paradise Claims and now help run Premier Claims as well. So both are national public adjusting firms. We mostly focus on commercial stuff. And that's just because, honestly, I haven't figured out how to build a scalable company focusing on residential claims. I think a lot of people have struggled with that. I've tried to quite a bit, but when you have overhead and salaries and benefits and all of those things, it's hard when you're working, off $2,000 or $3,000 fees in the states where we're fee capped. So sometimes I've caught a little bit of flack for not working residential. But my goal in business is to make money. When I've done a lot of residential, and I have, it was really hard to make money. And sometimes when you're working hurricanes and you're in Louisiana and State Farm is the one paying the bills, it's really, really hard to keep those kids fed and keep everybody happy. So I've found my niche in commercial stuff, and that's why on social media, my name is Large Loss Expert, TikTok and Instagram. You guys feel free to check me out on TikTok. I've got about, 150,000 followers on there. Burnout. Yes. We know. I've seen you in the same storms that I've been in. And what we're doing, we care about the people that we work for. And so we drive ourselves really hard, and sometimes we run ourselves far too thin, and sometimes our organizations don't have all of the people in them that we need to help us not burn out. How do we keep it from happening? I mean, everybody knows what burnout is, I guess, right? Some of you have probably experienced it. I know I have several times in my life. But how do we keep it from happening? Really, I think the answer is the right people in the right seats. The right people in the right seats in our organizations. And Robbie and I were talking yesterday about how hard it is to find certain people, and you train those people and you put them into a place in your business, and those people move on down the road, and it leaves you having to start over or sometimes take back over their workload. And those are the types of things that burn us out. The things that are good and healthy for us are when we're able to shift those tasks that aren't the best ones for us. And I think Vince Perry talked about that a little bit yesterday, if you guys saw Vince. Vince is actually the one that originally introduced me to Culture Index back in 2020 when he reached out to me, and I'd been in Hurricane Laura, and it was really, really challenging. I was very, very burned out in December of 2020. He said, "Man, how are you? How's your stress level?" And I'm like, there's not a word for it. And so he introduced me to some of these things, which I have really put into practice in my businesses, and it's made a huge, huge difference in my life and my quality of life. How do you know what people in what seats? That's a problem in companies. Like, you don't know how to hire the right people, or you hire who you think is the right person, and you often don't know what seat to put that person in. So we've found a couple of things that have helped us learn what seats need to be filled and how to fill those seats with the people that are perfect for them, that are going to enjoy that job and that role. Oh, let me go back. So, personality assessments. We're big on personality assessments, and some of you guys have heard me present on this before. It's going to incorporate some of the same stuff, but I'll move pretty quickly. What this is designed to show you is that they're based on data and research, and it has developed over time. So some of you guys may use a DISC assessment. The DISC came out, 1956, right? So we've got, 70 years almost of data and information that has been put into some other products like Culture Index to create a much more accurate result, especially in today's business world. Culture Index was developed by Gary Wallstrom, and it's an incredible product. It's used by a lot of Fortune 500 companies. It doesn't have the name recognition of some of the other ones, but who in this room has taken a Culture Index from me? And most people have found the results to be very, very accurate. And if anybody wants a Culture Index, you guys can send an email to Jackie@paradiseclaims.com, Jackie, Jackie@paradiseclaims.com, and we'll send you a survey, and we'll even go over it with you. So, ultimately, people and turnover cost you a lot of money. Turnover costs you a ton of money in your companies. When you're losing people, it's not just the cost that you've put into those people, but it's the opportunity cost is massive. If you see the lower black block there, the opportunity cost that you missed out on essentially when you had the wrong person in that seat is sometimes bigger than all the hard costs. And what that does is it just takes you longer and longer to grow your company, and that can be really challenging. You can take a picture of that too. It breaks down some of the different costs that companies put into people. And if you just reduce your turnover over the course of 3 or 5 years by 50%, your bottom line is going to benefit tremendously, tremendously. The cost of turnover in this situation can be a massive revenue difference, and that's showing when you've got 3 of the wrong people out of your 10-person team. 3 of the wrong people can cost a small business over $2 million in revenue, which makes a lot of sense, right? I think a lot of us have experienced that. So the Culture Index, these are the 4 main markers: your autonomy and your drive, your social ability, your patience and your pace, and your conformity and attention to detail. You can see the red dot is kind of like a gas pedal. So these are 4 of the 19 personality profiles. Your red dot's like a gas pedal. Your green dot is like your brake pedal. So if your gas pedal's way out in front of your brake pedal, then generally you're going to be more risk tolerant. You're going to be quick to get into new things. You're going to have a more visionary mindset. The one on the bottom left, the specialist, you see the green dots on the far right side of the red dot. And that person is going to be very risk averse. They're going to be very cautious when entering into new arrangements and things like that. And your companies and your organizations have a place for all of these different personalities, and making sure that the right personalities are sitting in the right seats are a huge part of the potential success. And a lot of companies have employed these types of systems for many years, but I'm a little bit newer to it, and I just discovered it in the last few years thanks to people like Vince Perry. And I've been able to take that and couple it with my ambition and ability on social media to build a couple of really healthy national companies now. This is an enterpriser right here, so you can see they're extremely autonomous. Everything's relative to that vertical red line, so the red dot on the right side is a high value. The dots on the left side are a lower value, so they're a very high A, extremely autonomous person. They're less social, they're fast-paced. They have low patience, they're fast-paced, and their conformity is slightly low. This is a visionary personality. These people are headstrong salespeople usually, enterprisers. And I can give you some examples. Doug Quinn's an enterpriser. Doug Quinn is somebody who has stopped at nothing. He has banged his head against every wall for the last 3 years, and finally, thank God, we're getting some traction. And a lot of people have looked at Doug, and almost anybody that I know that's been in Doug Quinn's position would have given up by now. Would have given up. You guys have no idea the amount of work that guy puts into this mission for the APA. And when you look at a personality profile like that, an enterpriser, it shows you why, because he's all autonomy and drive. If he sees something, he's going to get it, no matter how hard it is or how many hurdles are between him and that goal. So that's your social ability, a little bit less social, fast-paced, and then lower conformity. These dots here, this is your logic, the purple dot. If you have an L of 10, you're extremely logical. You don't make gut decisions. You don't feel your way through things. You consider the data, and then you make the most logical decision. There are good and bad things about having either a high L or a low L. I have a very low L, which means that I make more gut decisions, but it also means that my emotions come through more when I talk, and it does translate well to social media and video content and things like that. I'm also a closer. If you bring me to the table in front of an HOA board or any type of potential customer, if they're closable, I'm going to leave with ink on my contract. And part of that is that low L, because they can feel, some of the emotions that come through in my voice. Somebody with an L of 10, they may be having a really bad day, but you're probably not going to know it. Somebody with an L of 1 or 2 or 3, if they run a company and they're having a really bad day, maybe they should take the day off. That's your I for ingenuity. So this person has a lot of ingenuity. They think of new and different concepts. And then your job behaviors. In general, if you're surveying the people that work in your company, you want their top chart and their bottom chart to look very similar, because this person feels like they need to be that profile at work, and the top profile is their natural personality. So it shows that it aligns very closely with them. So this would be somebody who's probably successful in their work. When I've surveyed people inside my own companies, and I see that their top chart and their bottom chart are opposite, it starts to make sense why they're struggling so bad in their role. And so that's an indicator that shows me that this person's not the right fit for the seat that I have them in. Your autonomy is your self-direction, dominance, drive, persistence, achiever, take charge, lead. Usually the person with the highest A, the highest red dot, actually kind of commands and controls the conversation between the other people. It's just a natural thing. It just works together that way. Your B is your social ability. People that lead with their social ability they kind of feel their way experientially through conversations and relationships. And we have a need for these types of people. Some social profiles are very good sales profiles. But they're driven by different things than people with a real high A or autonomy. Patience and pace. There are some jobs where you want somebody that's very patient and can stick with something for hours and hours and hours. But there's a lot of jobs where you want somebody who can multitask and think quick on their feet. And so the Culture Index gives you an indication which type of person someone is. And this is your conformity to systems and processes. In your detailed work that the results have to be accurate, and this is going to go in front of a court and all of this stuff. You want people with a high D. You want people with a high D. It's really important. So The culture index is broken up into the 19 personalities are broken up into 4 different sections: visionary, research, social, and organizational. The research is also sometimes called technical. Those are technical profiles. Those people tend to be less social, but with a very high D, high conformity, you know they're going to deliver a good work product. And that's very important. I've surveyed a lot of PA firms, and you guys have people that are built to be salespeople making estimates. You guys have people out there in the complete wrong roles. And it's not your fault, like you don't know any better, but you wonder why this person is struggling and why their estimates aren't very detailed. It's because they're a social person. Like, they're built to be out there shaking hands and building relationships. They're not supposed to be on a computer building estimates. And they're probably not happy because they don't feel good at what they're doing. They're always messing up. They never meet your expectations. They talk too much. They distract everyone else. Yeah, because they shouldn't be back there as an estimator. They should be out there as a salesperson. And we've helped people relocate some of their staff that they currently have to other seats in the business. And business owners have gotten back to us and said, wow, this person's really thriving. I never knew they would do well there. These are your visionary profiles: daredevils, enterpriser, architect, philosopher, and trailblazer. Now you can see all of these. The red dot is to the right of the green dot. And that's what makes a visionary person. They're forward thinking. Somebody with a high green dot and a low red dot, they're more backward thinking. They're thinking in the details. Did I do that right? Did I get that submitted on time? Did I do that right? Where your philosopher, they don't care if they submit it on time. They're just thinking about the future. That's all that they really focus on. When you've got that green dot that trails backward to the left like that, like on the daredevil and the philosopher, that's a very strategic trait, because that conformity is so low. They're anti-conformist. Their brains are always thinking of new ways to achieve things, right? Matthew Mulholland, philosopher. Caden Tinkelberg, philosopher. My wife Jackie, philosopher. John Cenac, philosopher. Galen Hare, philosopher. So very strategic. They're just built that way. Now, don't rely on them to pay the mortgage payment on time, because they don't like to conform to systems, processes, due dates, or deadlines. But you have to know that and make sure that, honestly, part of my burnout was me putting Jackie in a position where I expected her to be this person that created and followed all these systems and processes, and I put all of this tremendous stress on her, and she didn't perform well, and I treated her very poorly for it. And that hurt the morale of my company, and that hurt her morale and her willingness to want to work with me. But it was my fault, and I realize that now because I put her in the wrong seat. She had a personality that was, I don't know if my assumption was just because, I was raised in a misogynist, male-dominated society where men went and did things and women were the assistants. And I just had this mind, oh, well, she's my wife, so she's supposed to do all the details and essentially be my assistant. And that was so ignorant of me. And it's caused me a lot of problems because I didn't stop and consider where her natural talents were. But these assessments have helped me to learn that everyone is different and everyone is built for a different role. And that's okay, because we should put them in the role they're built for. We shouldn't try to squeeze them into a role that we want them to be in. It just doesn't work well. Your research and technical profiles are these tech experts, scholars, specialists, craftsmen. Some of the best public adjusters I've had are craftsmen, because they have a high patience and a high conformity and attention to detail. They're not real friendly, but that's okay. I just need them to get their work done. I need it to be done accurately. Your tech experts are pretty incredible because they're fairly autonomous. See, their red dots on the right side of the line, so they still have some autonomy. They can manage people. They can lead people. Their blue dot is far to the left, so they're very fast-paced. And they have high conformity. So Brian at NTS, our integrator and our COO, he's a wide tech expert. And he's amazing in doing what he's supposed to do. I don't need him to be friendly, and I just need him to make sure that everything gets done. Another philosopher, Vince Perry's a philosopher, actually, too. Lots of philosophers. They're interesting people. Social profiles: persuaders, rainmakers, influencer, debater, socializer. Now, I'll tell you guys, I've learned some things about sales. Your persuaders and rainmakers, top left, those are always going to be some of your best salespeople, because they lead with their social ability. When the yellow dot is in front of the red dot, they're social with people because they genuinely care about people, and that builds better relationships. When your red dot is in front of the yellow dot, even if you have a high social ability, you're always driven to be social based on your agenda. It's not bad. People like that can move mountains. They can do a lot of things. But sometimes their relationships are going to have a little bit less depth because they're not as genuinely interested in that person, where a social personality has a true interest in that person. There's a lot of rainmakers. It's a visionary style of personality because you see the red dots far to the right of the green dot. But rainmakers are great relationship builders. Everybody loves those. Matt Danskin's a rainmaker. Mike Holmes a rainmaker. There's a lot of Cam that used to work for me is a rainmaker. Very social people. They feel their way through life and experiences. Organizational ones. I love some of these organizational ones. Notice this administrator. Is Stephen still here? Stephen loves it when I tell everybody how much I love his personality profile because he's an administrator. He's autonomous, he's highly social, he's fast-paced, and he's got conformity and attention to detail. He's kind of got it all. That's like the whole package. I love administrators. Kyle Maring at Premier Claims is also an administrator. And it's not surprising, like these people that are doing really well in these companies, if you look at their personality profile and the seat they're in the company, oftentimes they fit, they match, and that's why they're doing well. That's why they're thriving. That's why Stephen has been so good at growing the things that he's grown. Coordinators are really good too, a little bit less autonomous, so that could make a great assistant. Sometimes a traditionalist can make a good assistant as well. The different metrics here, let's see, I'm going to move pretty quick through this. So this is a trailblazer. This is actually my personality profile right here. So very autonomous. I get an idea in my head and I go after it. I'm social. I have a high social ability, but my autonomy is definitely the strongest part of it. Very fast-paced, low patience, overall lower conformity and attention to detail. But because my green dot doesn't trail off to the left, I'm going to get stuff done on deadline, which can be helpful in getting things done. Sometimes I put too much pressure on myself, but usually that's because organizationally I didn't structure things properly. Now I want to talk about this a little bit. So Jackie, who in here has heard of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System? Quite a few hands. There's a lot of companies out there run on EOS, and it's been huge for me. Premier Claims runs on EOS. Paradise Claims runs on EOS. NTS has run on EOS since the day of its inception. All right? This, for me, was the perfect structure and framework to make my companies run successfully, where they're not just running at the whim of TJ and his new idea every day. Rocket Fuel is a book published by Gino Wickman. It talks about visionary integrator combinations, okay? I'm going to explain to you guys what those are if you're not familiar with it. And I'm going to move quick, so feel free to take pictures. It takes not one, but two entrepreneurs to build a great company. Gino and Mark show how that relationship can provide the rocket fuel your company needs to achieve its full potential. Right? What are visionaries? Visionaries are people like Steve Jobs, right? They think about things that people want before people even know they want them. Visionaries are people like Walt Disney, right? They think about people, just all kind of new, different, crazy things that people like and enjoy. What are integrators? Anybody know him? Steve Wozniak. Anybody know that guy? Who knows who that is? Anybody? That's the guy that built the Disney company. His name's Roy Disney. Nobody knows Roy. Roy was the integrator. Walt couldn't really get anything done. Great ideas, but Roy is the one who built that company, right? Visionary integrator combinations accomplish amazing things. Made one of the most valuable companies in the history of the world, but Steve Jobs couldn't have done it by himself, and Wozniak couldn't have either. They needed each other. They're wired very differently. $2 trillion market cap. Walt and Roy built the Disney company, $200 billion market cap. And one of the tools that we use to tell if you're a visionary integrator is this rocket fuel crystallizer tool. So you can see this person's a visionary. They're a weak integrator, strong visionary. We've got people that come to us, they say, we're going to do EOS, and we've got our integrator set up, and we give them a crystallizer, and the guy's not an integrator. I'm sorry, it's not going to work well. Your philosopher is probably not your best integrator. Philosopher's a good visionary, but if you want to get shit done, you're going to be very disappointed. You've got to use these assessments. Some of the common visionaries you see are daredevils. Speaking of daredevils, Heath Hicks. Heath Hicks is a daredevil. Toby Rannigan is a daredevil. Matt Frugier is a daredevil. Square Dash. These guys start organizations. They make a lot of mistakes along the way, but their A leads them, and they keep on going. Enterprisers, like Doug Quinn. Architects, we've got a few architects in the room. Sean Hodge, architect. I believe Cal's an architect. A lot of you guys are architects because it takes somebody who's headstrong but has enough conformity to actually get shit done to be successful in some of these fields that we're in, like public adjusting. So I see tons of architects. And I like architects a lot because They can get shit done, and they can make sure it's done right, and they can take charge of people, and they're fast-paced. So they usually work pretty well with me, but they are headstrong. Trailblazers, that's what I am. That's also what John Wood is. It's also what TJ McCormick is. Who else, Jack? I can't remember else, but there's a handful of other successful trailblazers. Autonomous, social, fast-paced, with a little bit less conformity, but enough to get stuff done. And a philosopher. Other philosophers, Sam Struthers is a philosopher. Justin Reichel is a philosopher. You're going to start seeing some common threads between these people running these companies, and then in their support staff and the people that are around them that they're putting in the seats to make sure they get these things done. You're going to see a lot of common threads. Persuaders also, and rainmakers like Matt Danskin. He's a visionary of his company. Common integrators, architects. See that high D, that conformity. A tech expert, that can be your integrator, right? You don't need the guy with that green dot on the far left side. You try to put him in as your integrator or your COO, and you're going to constantly be disappointed with the performance. You're going to wonder why people aren't being held accountable and things aren't getting done in your company. And you're going to think the problem is them, but it's not. The problem is you, because you put the wrong person in the wrong seat. Administrators can be a good integrator. Sales profiles, daredevils, trailblazers, persuaders, rainmakers. You see, they're all autonomous. They all have a low conformity because they're more socially driven. All of these people are more socially driven. Influencer. Kaylee McIntosh, influencer, which kind of fits her personality, if you guys know Kaylee. Debaters are good social sales profiles also, but these are farmers. Your persuaders and rainmakers, they're your killers, okay? These are your farmers. Hunters, some people call them, hunters and farmers. These are administrator like Stephen Bush. Like, obviously, he can go out there and do sales too. Administrators can do anything. That's what's great about them. There aren't enough of them. Not very many people, their surveys come back as administrator, unfortunately. But I usually like everyone I find. Specialists. For me, a specialist is the perfect administrative assistant. Very high conformity, but less autonomy, so they need to be told what to do, but they're fast-paced, and they're going to make sure, like every time I survey a specialist, when it comes back, I ask them a question. I know what they're going to say, but I'm just checking to see if everything's accurate. I say, what do you do to make sure that you get everything done before the end of the day? They say, well, I make a list, and I don't stop working until everything's marked off. Every specialist tells me that, every one of them. So, I told a guy the other day, I said, if you're hiring for an assistant, the person that you need to hire is someone that already makes a list every day. Like, they're already doing this in their life. So when you ask them these questions, you want to make sure that they tell you they make a list and they get everything done, because that's the perfect type of assistant. I'll forget everything. I'd forget my head if it wasn't attached. Craftsmen, very detail-oriented. Coordinators, I've got one of my main assistant now is a coordinator, and she's great, She's pretty social, which doesn't matter to me if my assistant's that social or not. But that green dot's what I'm looking for, their ability to get things done and conform to systems and processes. EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, is a framework to help optimize how your business runs. So Jackie is getting her implementer certification. She's going to the boot camp in Tampa next month? Yeah, the beginning of June. And then we're going to be doing some EOS implementation in other companies, because we've seen how amazing it's been for the companies that we run and how it's changed everything fundamentally about the way the company operates and achieves its goals. EOS starts with a big 10-year goal, like what do you want to be doing in 10 years, making $30 million a year in revenue or whatever. And then you work it backwards and break it down. What do you have to be doing in 5 years to make sure that you're going to hit your 10-year goal? What are you going to be doing in 3 years? What do you have to do next year? And then let's break this year up down in quarters. And then those quarters, we're going to set goals that are called rocks, and we're going to make sure that we achieve those goals to be on track to that 10-year goal. EOS is based on this accountability chart. You've got a visionary integrator combination. The visionary, my eyesight's getting bad. Visionary, lots of ideas, usually a creative problem-solving person. They handle the big relationships. They help set the tone for the culture. They're a little bit more led on emotion usually. They don't have a lot of direct accountability. When you give a visionary too much accountability, you can put the visionary in a bad place emotionally. All right? Everybody needs to be somewhere where they thrive. Integrator is someone that has to hold everybody accountable, lead, manage, and hold accountable everybody in the organization, and oversee the seats below them. Typically, you're going to see like a sales and marketing seat, an ops seat, and a finance seat. This is also why very, very small organizations, it's hard to implement EOS, because ideally they target companies with at least 10 people, because you have to have different people in different seats. You can sometimes have somebody wearing a couple of hats, but the more you have that, the more difficult it is to remain healthy on EOS. So there's that combination. These don't have to necessarily fit in with an organizational chart, but usually they're going to mirror one. You know, the integrator oftentimes is like a COO type person. And then every week when your company's run on EOS, you have a level 10 meeting. It's a 90-minute meeting that's designed specifically to resolve tasks, to resolve issues, to set tasks and agenda items, and follow up on them every week. So what used to happen in my companies, I'd find a problem, I would say, hey guys, this is an issue, this needs to be done this way instead, and then I wouldn't pay attention to it for 6 weeks, and 6 weeks later I'd check in on this thing, and nothing had been done, and nothing had been changed, and I said, what the heck, I told you guys 6 weeks ago you should be doing this differently, and you needed to do it differently like this now, and another 4 weeks goes by, and I realize they still aren't doing it the way that I wanted. Now I'm 10 weeks down the road. That doesn't happen with EOS. Every week, level 10 meeting, all the people that are sitting in seats of accountability are meeting together for 90 minutes. They're going over their scorecard, they're going over their rocks, their goals, their objectives, they're identifying issues, they're ranking the issues to be what are the most important for us to address. We're going to discuss them, we're going to solve them, and then we're going to give somebody an action item that they're accountable to, and we're going to ask them next week, how did you do on that task that you set for yourself to resolve this issue that we identified and discussed last week? And when you do that, you quickly learn if someone's in the wrong seat, because 3-4 weeks in a row, their stuff isn't done. Now they're being called out in front of everybody. They're not really being called out. It's right up there on the screen or the projector, you know, when you're doing your L10 meeting. Hey, John, why aren't you getting these things done? What's the deal? And what's interesting is instead of having to fire those people or move them to another seat, they'll often come to you and say, you know what, I don't know if this is the right fit for me. And that's a little better scenario, because, okay, well, so what would be the right fit for you? Maybe there's somewhere else in the organization, because if you're hiring your people that match your core values, you're going to find the right people. And sometimes it's okay to find a different seat for them inside the organization, because you want to hire good people, you want to keep good people. And oftentimes you can move people around laterally within your organizations into seats that better suit their personality, and they're going to be happier. So 90-minute meeting, this kind of breaks it down and tells you how it goes through it. If you guys are interested in growing your company and organization, please feel free to reach out to Jackie or myself to talk about EOS. We love it. We're glad to give people encouragement and insight and ideas about EOS. It's been a huge, huge game changer for us, but it's based on a visionary integrator combination. Now listen, you can hire a visionary. You can hire an integrator. You can hire them both. Like, this doesn't have to mean any certain thing within business or company ownership. If you come to me and I do personality assessments and I look at your company and I say there's no clear visionary, if you really want to grow, hire a visionary. Hire a visionary. There's a lot of different ways that you can pay them. When it comes to the integrators, you can hire fractional people. I'm big on hiring fractional executives, CFOs. Most of your companies cannot afford or should not have to afford a full-time CFO. Right? You can hire a fractional CFO 1 day a week, 4 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever you need. There's a lot of very flexible options out there, and we help connect people with fractionals and stuff like that, all based on the needs of your business. Accountability chart, right people, right seats, whether they're full-time or they're fractional. Understand the core values of your company, because everybody really needs to be a core values match first. That's the most important thing. And then everyone has to understand the company vision, and that's something that EOS does, is it helps align everyone and keep you on the same track toward that company vision. And then your level 10 meetings. You guys can, if you're interested in subscribing to a culture index, we'll give you a free culture index and go over it with you. You can email me, tj@paradiseclaims.com, or Jackie at paradiseclaims.com. Stanton Williams is the guy that we work with at Culture Index, so if you're interested at all, take a photo of that, and you can shoot him an email as well. But ultimately, these things have changed our lives in such a positive way that we're always excited to share this information with other entrepreneurs. I felt like I was banging my head against a wall for 10 years in business before a handful of things that I've learned over the last 3 years really changed and brought everything into alignment and helped me to be a lot more successful and helped my companies to thrive and helped the people inside my companies to live happier lives. Appreciate all you guys. See you later.